Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strip Search, the comic strip podcast for September 2022. I'm Pete Chianca. I am here, as always, with Dave London. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Pete.
How is your September so far?
So far, so good. Trying to think where we would. We're closing in on the end. I can't believe like fall is here and it's no longer summer. It just baffles me how that happens.
It is chilly today. I returned to the office this week. 2.5 years.
It still looks like your house.
Work. Yes, they only made us go in 3 days. We're going Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Today is Friday. So I'm back in my usual surroundings here with my dogs at close range and, in my casual clothes. It was a very strange 3 days. I was out in the elements. There was rain. There was, air that you breathe out in the world. The whole thing was very strange.
And as I think our viewers and listeners know, we're from Boston. And so Boston is now famous for exploding subway cars. Did that happen at all?
No, I was a little concerned. Yes, as anyone who follows the transit news knows, one of the Orange Line subway cars in Boston caught fire a few months ago on a bridge, leading people to jump from the windows, in one case from the bridge into the water. She was fine. But that led them to close the whole Orange Line for a month to make repairs. That is my line, I should mention. That is the line I take to work. Fortunately, it opened just in time for us to go back. It's still a little slow. Apparently, you have to work in those tracks.
You have to push it from behind.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like the tracks don't just, it's like, when you get a new pair of shoes.
Yeah, you break it in.
They're a little stiff. You got to break it. Same thing with railroad tracks. So the trains were a little slow, but they got me there. And it is what it is. It is what it is. The whole world has been going to work for all of eternity, and I got a nice break from that. But now we're back to it.
So let's jump to some cartooning talk. Why are we here today? What's our big news for
Well, we this is actually a huge time of year in the cartoonist community. You, as a member of the National Cartoonist Society, would know that the Reuben Awards were just held. That is like the Oscars of cartooning.
It's a huge event that happens once a year, and the National Cartoonist Society provides the award. And Reuben, it's not named for the sandwich, just in case anyone was, concerned.
There's a logical consumption.
There is a logical consumption. No. Named for Rube Goldberg, famous cartoonist Rube Goldberg, who created the contraptions that are, even today, if you see like on YouTube videos, people making all these contraptions with, tennis balls rolling and knocking down pins and coffee being made and so on and so forth. That was all that stems from Rube Goldberg and his contraptions.
And it was held this year where? Kansas City?
Kansas City. Yep, Kansas City was actually in Missouri, not Kansas.
I learned so much on this podcast.
Oh, geography, history.
We don't limit it to one topic. Well, it just so happens that our guest today, who is known as Ruben Bolling, the creator and cartoonist behind Tom the Dancing Bug, just won a Reuben for Editorial Cartooning, which is a huge deal.
So Ruben Bolling won the Reuben Award.
I know. I mean, I guess it seems just a natural occurrence. How could it be otherwise?
Right.
But obviously, he had quite a bit of a competition. So we'll be talking to him about that after the break. Did our comic strip pet peeves win anything, Dave? Maybe it happened and no one.
We didn't. We entered, but we didn't win.
All right.
So I did enter the strip. So
that's something.
The same way, I also applied to Harvard. Didn't get it. So,
right. Exactly. Yeah. It's
that, right?
You got to be in it to win it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So maybe next year on that. But we have the the pleasure of speaking to some Reuben winning cartoonists. I know we've had a few on the podcast, and now we'll have.
I am a Reuben eating cartoonist, so
that's right. Well, I think that's why everyone assumes it's named after the sandwich. Have you ever met a cartoonist who didn't love a good Reuben?
So I could go for a sandwich.
They actually, at my office, they did give us free food this week when we came back, so all was forgiven.
Nice.
So anything else in the world of cartooning or otherwise before we get to our esteemed guest?
I think the only thing that I noticed lately is I know Burke Brothers' Bloom County, which is being made into an animated show, seems to be coming along. I've seen some some postings on that, but we don't have anything to report until when we learn more. We'll certainly discuss that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how that comes out. It's just such an interesting, I know we've talked about it before, but like, I wonder even how well it's known, beyond people of a certain, like our age, basically, that, read it in high school and college and as sort of young people. And then he's sort of, and he's done different versions of it over the years. He's done web only things, but I wonder if there's, in the zeitgeist, there's a clamoring for new Bloom County material. I'm really interested to see where that goes.
We will find out, and we will get back to our listeners and viewers. Are they viewers or are they listeners?
Well, it depends on as regular patrons of Strip Search know, we make the video of our conversations available along with the audio. Most people do just download the audio, so I suppose they could listen to it in their cars. We don't advocate you watching video in your car. And
if you don't have a car, just figure something out.
Yeah, don't watch it on your bicycle. Right. Anything that involves traffic, stick with the audio version would be my advice. Right. All right then. Everybody stay tuned. We're going to take a very quick break, and in less than 30 seconds, we will be back with Ruben Bolling of Tom the Dancing Bug. Stay tuned, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Strip Search, the comic strip podcast. I'm Pete Chianca here with Dave London, and we are thrilled to introduce our special guest for September. Let me introduce you. Ruben Bolling is the author of the weekly comic strip, Tom the Dancing Bug, which you'll find on Go Comics, Daily Cause, and Boing Boing. He was the finalist for the 216 Herblock Award and winner of that award in 2017. He was the 2014 winner of the Society of Illustrators Best Cartoon Award. Tom the Dancing Bug has been twice nominated for the Harvey Award for Best Comic Strip or Panel and has won the Association of Alternative Newsweekly's Award for Best Cartoon 5 times. Plus, he just won a coveted Editorial Cartoonist Award at the latest Reuben Awards. Different Reuben, no relation. He also is the author of a series of chapter books for children called the Emu Come Adventures. You've likely seen his work in publications like The New Yorker, Nickelodeon, Mad Magazine, ESPN The Magazine, and Harper's. Ruben Bolling, welcome to Strip Search.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
That was a mouthful. I hope I got it all in.
It's a lot, yeah. But thank you for going through that. You went all the way back to 2014. I appreciate it.
That's all we had time for. We could have gone even further, but maybe we should do that right off the bat anyway. We did want to mention right out of the gate that we have a shared history, Dave and I, with you, not personally, but academically. We are all graduates of Tufts University, meaning we are all jumbos, which is the
Fighting Jumbos.
The Fighting Jumbos, the Tufts University mascot, for better or for worse. We are jumbos. People may like to make fun of that, but we're proud of it.
Oh yeah.
So we just want to start off and we talk a little bit about your time, thinking back to your time at Tufts, and you also went to Harvard Law, so you spent a good chunk of time in our neck of the woods, the greater Boston area. What were you doing? Clearly, you went to law school, so I don't know if cartooning was a primary goal still at that point. What cartooning were you doing, and what were you thinking about your future, and how did Boston play into that?
Well, yeah, I mean, Boston is definitely part of my, origin story. It may be, it is my origin story. It's my time there was incredibly formative. When I always liked cartooning. I didn't know if I was good at it. In fact, I was not good at it at the time because I wasn't really even trying. I did it a lot as a little kid. And I always thought maybe I could do it, but I didn't do it. So it was in Tufts that I applied to the Tufts Daily to be a cartoonist there, and I was rejected, and deservedly. It was very bad. My comics were not good. They didn't even show potential. They were just bad. I was trying too much to be like Doonesbury, who was my hero at the time, and Bloom County, that kind of cartooning. And I don't know if I ever could have done that, but I certainly couldn't do that at that time, because I was just really had done almost nothing as a adult or young adult. So I really failed. And then, I'm looking at career options, and cartooning was not even a glimmer of a thought at that time. So I go to law school, um, and there's an ad in the law school newspaper saying we need a cartoonist. Can anybody help us out? So I thought, okay, it's the lowest stakes possible because it's a law school newspaper. They're begging for a cartoonist. I'll try. And at that time in Boston, I was just starting to get back into like reading comics. I'd always liked Doonesbury, but I had read, like in high school and college, I had sort of rejected consciously my interest in like superhero comics and being a comics nerd. I did not want that to be my persona. I was rejecting myself. And it wasn't until I went to law school that I began to say, you know what, that's who I am. Maybe I should pursue that interest. I've always loved it. It was a comic book shop in Cambridge, Million Year Picnic.
Oh, we know it well.
Still there.
Which I know is still
Yeah,
there.
still there.
I mean, that really I would go there and, satisfy my itch for these superhero comics for the first time in years, but also get into like some of the underground alternative comics there. And, one of them I picked up was a zippy book called Are You Having, wait, it's right here. Are We Having Fun Yet?
Yeah.
By Bill Griffith. Zippy the Pinhead is his character. And it just sort of rearranged my thoughts of what I could do as a cartoonist. I didn't have to be a Doonesbury style cartoonist, a daily, that kind of, wry sense of humor. I could be a silly sense of humor and non sequiturs and satire. And so I applied to the law school newspaper with a comic that was very different, that was really just exactly what I do. I sat down and just did what I do now. And it was instantly satisfying to do. I knew it was good in the sense of it doesn't suck. And it became very popular. And that's when I sort of realized in the middle of law school, maybe I could be a cartoonist. So for a long time I did both. But yes, it was law school and my time in Boston that really, opened my eyes to what I could be as a cartoonist. And then, as a young lawyer, I started, Tom the Dancing Bug as a weekly comic strip I did pretty much on the side.
So, and that's actually a great segue into the next question we're going to ask. So let's talk about Tom the Dancing Bug, which is, your claim to fame. How has it evolved over the years? And if you want to talk about that little period we had, the Trump era, which may have given you some fodder, and, where things are today.
Donald Trump, I don't know if you remember him. He was president for a while.
I'm drawing one about him this week. So every time I think he's going to go away,
he's still in the news.
He's in the news again, believe it or not, if you look closely. When it started, it was very general humor oriented. When it started, it was apolitical. There was no politics in it. It was all silly humor about pop culture or about nothing or about ape men or whatever cartoon characters. It was just very silly. But that was when I started, let's say, professionally 32 years ago. So that's a long time ago. And so the whole idea of the comic would be like whatever I want to do that week, that would be it. It's totally free form. What was the name of their Touch radio station? They called it free format.
Yeah, MFO.
Yeah.
Free format. That's what I thought my concept would be. Free format. Whatever, anything goes in that week. I could do anything. So yeah, I started, getting a little bit into politics because I began getting interested in it as I got older, and also I got into it from the perspective of a humorist, because I'm just trying to think of funny things every week, and that's like an opportunity. That's like something else I could write about. So I just began doing little bits of it more and more, just to try to be funny, anything to be entertaining, whatever people wanted, whatever I thought would hit. 9/11, things changed. It got a little more political. The financial crisis, a little bit more. And then when Trump started to gain in the polls, for the primary in 2016,
Yep.
I made an actual conscious decision. I said, I'm going to give my comic strip over to Trump, because this is the political phenomenon of my lifetime. This is an incredible thing that's happening here. And I expected and certainly hoped that it would only last until the election. But then he got elected, and then I was stuck with him for 4 years, and it's just been.
But no, there's more.
Right, there's more. And then when he leaves, he doesn't go away. He doesn't fade into the background like Carter, or he's there.
Yeah, Trump's not out there building churches on the weekends.
No, he's definitely still in our face. And even when he was less in the news, I was still doing a lot about the Trump phenomenon, the MAGA people, and that I think is obviously, there's no doubt now, this is the political phenomenon of our lifetime. So the strip has gotten very political. I still do, general humor ones every now and then. I still sneak in a super fun pack and do something just totally off the wall and silly. But yeah, it's been, it's what I'm thinking about. It's what I think people want to read about. So I just, even if I try some weeks to try to not do something about it, when I sit down and face that blank page, the synapse is just, there's like a groove that just sends me right down to Trump. So the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of Trump, a lot of politics.
And I bet if you tried to do something apolitical now, your readers would be like, wait a minute. They'd be trying to read some political into it, because
they absolutely do.
They want.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I'm very aware of that, if I do something not political, then they, by the 5th panel, they're like, well, where's the political allegory? And so I have to do it more in order to fight against that. And so, and I've done some, I know that, because I can see in the comments sometimes that when I look at them online, I can see that people will still make like political allegories to something that I wrote that has not, even Super Fun Pack Comics, that has nothing to do with politics. So if I don't want to be a fully political cartoonist, I have to establish myself as that. So because the last 5 years, I've definitely set up a pattern. So yeah, it's hard. I would love to get back to Ape Men and Frankenstein and silly stuff, but this week there's no doubt. I knew what I was doing it on. It's got to be what's going on with Trump.
Can you give us at least a little preview of what the new one?
Yeah, the new one. Well, by the time this comes out, when does this come out?
Probably within in about a week or so.
Oh, okay. It'll be out. Yeah, it's an installment of of one of my favorite features that started in 2016, Donald and John, where
yes,
Calvin and Hobbes take off, where it's little Donald is a little boy and he has an imaginary publicist. And the two of them get into antics that are somewhat parallel what Donald Trump is going through.
Yeah, so Pete and I will go fanboy for a moment. Pete and I are both fans of the Donald and
oh, thank you. Yeah,
the one with the
amazing.
I mean, it's even funnier if you know that Donald Trump in real life created an imaginary publicist.
Yeah,
by that name, but you don't have to know that.
That's the thing. It's sort of grown beyond that. The first one was about the fact that it was revealed that he used to call reporters pretending to be his own publicist named John Barron. And so one morning when I was on my deadline and I had something else written, I just realized, wait a minute, he has an imaginary publicist. That's like Calvin and Hobbes. And like in like 8 hours, I wrote and drew it and sent it out. And yeah, that was one of my one of my favorite moments as a cartoonist was that like light bulb.
It's amazing because I'm sure back in the 80s, people thought, what, you're electing an actor to be president? But then Reagan actually, had some political background.
Oh, they had no idea what was coming. Yeah.
Have you always enjoyed sort of mimicking other cartoonist art styles like that? Because there's a dead-on, visual parody
Oh, thank you.
Calvin and
Thank
Hobbes.
you. I do enjoy it. I appreciate that you think it's set on. I don't think it is. I think that you know, that I fail in certain ways. I would love it if I really could totally nail Watterson or any of the people that I copy. I try to come as close as possible so that it just evokes it. And maybe some people do think that that's dead on, but I still see the flaws. You know, these are such heroes that I try hard to get it. But wait, was there, what was the question? Was it about that it was, oh yeah, do I enjoy it? Oh yeah, that's you know, I started, you know, being a satirist, and I think that satire works best when you really copy what you're satirizing. You know, like when Mel Brooks did Young Frankenstein, the fact
Yeah.
that it looked exactly like a Frankenstein movie helped the satire so much. So if I'm going to do satire in comics, I've got to, you know, if I try to do satirize like a TV show, it never comes off well because I can't really make it look like a TV show. It's the wrong medium.
Right.
But you know, comics are the right medium. So I really, I just love it because even though I make fun of this stuff, I don't necessarily make fun of Calvin and Hobbes, but when I'm like, when I was in law school, one of the first things I did when I got a comic strip was make fun of Doonesbury, and really viciously and meanly, and he was my hero. And I guess that's the way satirists show their love. You know, I drew exactly like him and did a comic like taking him down. I don't know. It's you know, I revere Trudeau and Doonesbury. I wouldn't say it's meanly, but yeah, it was a satire. So I love drawing in other styles. I get bored of drawing in my own style. I like trying to get some, you know, another style. And I think you know, that helps the satire. Yeah.
Yeah, and total non sequitur, but when you were at Tufts, I'm sure you knew that Scotty McLennan was Gary Trudeau's roommate, and he was the basis for one of the Doonesbury characters. He was the chaplain at Tufts. Did you not know this?
No.
So Scotty McLennan, who was the chaplain at Tufts for many, many years, he was there when we were at Tufts, but Scotty McLennan was Gary Trudeau's roommate at Yale back in when they were in college.
Wow.
And so he was the basis for, I think it was an amalgamation of two of the characters, but he created a character based on his roommate from college who was
Wow, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, interestingly, we've told this story on the podcast before, but Dave and I, when we did sort of a combination text, comics, satire thing for the Observer, which was the weekly paper there.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, you know, what could we do with this? We said, oh, you know, we should go talk to Scotty McLennan. He's friends with Gary Trudeau. So we go into his office in the chapel there, and we're sitting in front of him, showing him some of our work. He's like, oh, I think Gary would like this. Let's call him. It's on the phone, calls Gary. Gary, Scotty, I got two potential cartoonists here. Dave and I are drooling, stammering. We have no idea what to say or what to do. Yeah, regardless, they gave us his address, I believe, and we sent him some stuff, and we got a very nice letter back. But yeah, that was
that's amazing. Oh, if I had the gumption and savvy to think of like a connection like that and go
go there, this was not gumption or savvy. This was just two idiots walking.
No, that is savvy. That is, you know, you learn over time. It's like, you know, you use, you know, networking and you know, talk to people. And you know, I just was just like, I'm going to draw my comics and then submit them, and I didn't get it, and I was like, okay, I guess I can't be a cartoonist. That was the end of it.
Now, do you think, just to go back to Trump a little bit, are we finally going to see some accountability there? This is getting sort of away from the cartooning aspect, I guess, but I feel like something's got to give here. It's feeling like,
yeah, I've always been, you know, I've always been skeptical. And then, you know, when people say, in the past, when people said, let's see him wriggle out of this one, and I was always like, oh, he will so wriggle out of this one. There was nothing, you know, once he got past the grabbing by the pussy, that was it. You just realize this guy, nothing is going to stop him. He has a cult, and they will forgive anything, and he has his fingers on, you know, all the levers.
He was right. He could walk down Fifth Ave and shoot somebody. And
right.
That's right. That was prophetic.
I'm doing that. So, and I'm not, obviously, I have no insight as a pundit, or certainly not as an insider, but yeah, I mean, it's the same as you. I feel as though there's just a lot of stuff now. There's there's many things going on. Something's got to at least you know, penetrate a little bit.
Now we're, having really dove into him and the state of the country over these last, 5 or 6 years. This is something that it's in your headspace every week. Does it get to you after a while? Would you just like to take a month and not think about what's going on in America? I think what you're doing is a service to all of us.
Well,
but it
thanks.
must be tough on you sometimes.
I don't know about it being a service, but yeah, I do. Not Trump is, there's stuff that I write about can be very depressing, and I don't take Trump lightly. I don't think he's necessarily funny or a clown. I think he's unbelievably dangerous, and the movement behind him is an existential threat. So my job is to sort of make fun of that, sort of whistling in the dark, more than saying that they're not a threat so we can make fun of him. It's more, they're a huge threat, so let's laugh a little bit for a second before we continue fighting or whatever we need to do to deal with it. But I've dealt with, there are times when 9/11 and after school shootings when I've chosen to write about, I guess after 9/11 I had to, but I don't always have to deal with a tragedy, but I sometimes I choose to, because I can find it, it's painful, but it can be cathartic, and it can help me. I don't know if it helps other people. I hope so. I just did a comic about the shooting in Texas, and I did it in a Richard Scarry, sort of a Richard Scarry style, drawing the inside of a classroom in in this sweet children's book illustrator style. And before that, I wouldn't even allow myself to create a mental image of what it must have been like in those classrooms. I would think about it and then banish it from my thoughts, like shiver. So I forced myself to confront, it was horrible to have to draw that, but at the end it was one of the, it was felt very cathartic. And after 9/11 I did a number of comics, one of which I remembered to as being incredibly helpful. Just I had all these thoughts that were so dark and puzzling, and I was able to bring it into my world, and have some control over it and manipulate it. And it was very helpful, because I felt from going powerless to powerful, because now with this big thing is in my world and I can manipulate it on my terms. So for me, and I hope that hopefully that translates to the reader, it can be very helpful.
Yeah, and I think it's and when I said it's a service, I think that's sort of what I was getting at. I think it does translate to the reader, and they can look at it and say, "Oh, good, it's not just me. The world is insane, and here's proof."
Right.
He has encapsulated it in a way that I couldn't necessarily put into words. And I was just recently looking at that one you mentioned, and it's funny is not the word for it.
Oh no.
But it is. It's biting, and it's scary.
Maybe that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my cartooning career. It was painful and hard, and yet there's parts of it that is just technical, like what does that ear look like? How does he draw a rabbit's ear? And so it's weird to be doing a terrible thing and be so emotional and still be technical about the way you're going to color a bookcase the way Richard Scarry would have. So yeah, it was a weird process, but yeah, I'm glad that's the hope, is that it translates, it helps me, and it translates to the reader.
So sort of another natural segue, I always like to ask the question about process. Really, it's two questions. One is the creative process of coming up with the idea to execution. What's your sort of modus operandi of thinking of the gags to final production? But then the second part of the process is, are you old school, or do you use digital tools, and which tools do you prefer?
Right. Well, I mean, right now I'm in part of the process here. So I always have this notebook, and I'll like write down some ideas. I could be stuck on this part for like 4 hours with like nothing underneath it, just like staring at it. And then usually something will happen, and then all of a sudden it just fills in. Like I'll get a foothold in an idea. Because as you know, it's a different thing every week. And there may be a recurring character, or maybe a new thing, but like the world is wide open to this. So I could do anything. And so the question is, what do I do? Is it about a topic? Is it about something else? I don't know. So there's a lot of, staring and thinking at a blank page, and procrastinating and going to get a cup of coffee and whatever. So then I'll write it out on this kind of thing, and then I'll script it on the computer. So I have every panel is blocked out. And then there's my drawing table. So I am old school. I draw the comic here, but I'll draw maybe 80% of it. I'll leave some stuff that I know I'm going to have to do on the computer. I scan that in, and then I sometimes the lettering's on the computer. Sometimes certainly the panels are. Sometimes I'll draw a certain thing somewhere else, and then I'll drop it into that drawing. So some of my originals are the full thing. This is the comic. Some of them are like halfway, and there's different things in other different places. And some are done totally on the computer. You can usually tell which ones. There's not much drawing. It's like, I did one about Trump, and it was all photo. It's a photo composite. About Trump. A recent one about Trump. So yeah, how digital it is varies, but usually it's here. Wait a minute. This is the one that I'll show you the original for the last one. So this is the original for a Chagrin Falls episode that just ran this week. And the title panel, this way, the title panel is preset. The lettering is going to be done on the computer. If I make a mistake, I just make a note over here to change it once it's digital. I used to use whiteout before, back in the old days. Yeah. Now I just make a note, and I can still, change stuff. Some of the stuff was changed as I looked at the computer, and I can, change it around. But basically, this is the drawing that becomes the basis of the cartoon.
Wow. All right, super technical question here. Now, are you using for horizon lines? Are you just drawing it naturally, or are you laying out your horizon lines to get your dimensions correct when you do like the house? I saw the house.
Oh, you mean for perspective and that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I will. I did use horizon lines for that house because that was going to be a little complicated. But I found that I've done this enough that when I draw it freehand, and then add the actual technical perspective lines, I come pretty close. There was a time, when I began that, I didn't know how it should look. And when I draw the horizons, I do nothing like the way it was supposed to be. And so I had to change it a lot. But now I drew this house almost freehand, and then I made only slight modifications based on, how the perspective should actually look. So I've got a little bit of an intuition on it now.
All right, we'll go back to the higher level questions now. I'll pull back
Okay.
to the super technical, going geek out on the process.
Aren't
you going to ask him what pens he likes? That's
Oh,
always
yeah.
my
So
favorite
what
question of
pens?
yours.
I forgot. Yeah, what pens are you using?
Oh, literally, yeah.
We're still back in the geek out process here.
This is a Micron 5. This is I used to use a rapidograph, but now I just use these. It's much easier. And I use this mechanical blue pencil to sort of rough it out first. Then when I put it into the computer, I take out all the blues. So I don't even have to erase the pencils. I can just draw over them and then erase then take the pencils out digitally. Yeah, so that's it.
All right.
That's awesome.
Turn it over to Pete.
Yes, as the non-artist in the group, I find this stuff fascinating. It's like watching like a music documentary, because I also don't know how to make music, but I just find it fascinating. So I always enjoy that segment. I wanted to ask you, but you had mentioned the super fun packs, and for people who may not be familiar with them, can you talk a little bit about sort of what that is and how you come up with them. I think that those must be like a palate cleanser, like you said, from some of the more, serious and biting
Oh
stuff that
yeah,
you
they
do.
are. They actually, I began thinking of them because, I have a sort of that big comic strip. It's like, 9 panels. It's sort of a full page. I actually, um, the comic strip is the dimensions that it is because when I submitted it to the law school newspaper, I was using this, copy paper. And so this became the dimensions of the comic strip for the next, 32 years. But it's kind of big. And I was having trouble like making I know that the jokes that I wanted to tell that were sort of weird and minimalist, they didn't work if it's too big. You can't make like a weird little joke big. So I actually like consciously thought, how can I make these weird jokes work? And so I thought of, actually, here's my Super Fun Pack Comics book. So I made each comic, so each week would be one of these, and I just made little, almost like a fake daily comics page.
Yep.
And each one is like that. And so, yeah, they're just wonderful to think how I think of, the way I think of them is usually I get out that blank piece of paper and nothing comes, nothing's funny, nothing works. And then, but I just like make my brain get stupider and stupider until I get really, really dumb. And then suddenly like I'll get like 1, 2, 3, they sort of come, I almost go into like a fugue state and there's like really weird, stupid ideas come into my head. I have to get really dumb in order for that to happen. For that's like wipe my brain clean and do that. And so yeah, they're fun because it's fun to get into that state and draw these. And the best is when I'm writing one and something happens that I don't expect. Like I get surprised. Like, oh, the punchline surprises me as much as much as a reader, and that doesn't happen often because usually I'm like working out the math of something. But every now and then something just comes in, and that's a blast. But yeah, I love doing those.
That's cool.
So your name, Ruben Bolling, we want to talk about where that comes from. We heard that there's a bit of a baseball connection. Can you talk about where you came up with your name?
I came up with that at Tufts because I wanted to use a pseudonym when I submitted my comics because I thought I think I was shy. I thought I don't want if the comic strip does run, I don't want everyone to know about me and I don't know about them. And so I made up this pseudonym and I sort of idiotically stuck with it. Each step I took, I said, well, I don't want to lose all those people who know Ruben Bolling from law school. So I gotta continue it. I should have just broken it, but now I'm stuck with it. But yeah, I thought of it at Tufts, and it was it's basically a phone book kind of thing, just like putting your finger down, running the phone book and just doing this. But it's basically 2 random baseball players from the 50s who I have no connection to, no reason. Reuben Amaro and Frank Bolling, a shortstop and a second baseman. And I just combined their name to Ruben Bolling. And it's the same thing with the name Tom Dancing Bug, which means nothing. Once I thought of it, I just loved it. It just that's just it. It just fits. So I became Ruben Bolling. I invented that identity in just like a couple minutes in my dorm room.
Yeah. So on the baseball topic, we got to ask you: Red Sox or Yankees?
Oh, Red Sox.
Okay, good answer.
Red Sox. Yeah, I'm a Mets fan from New York, and I feel as though 86 aside, the Mets and the Red Sox have a common enemy, and so we're friends. I feel as though Red Sox fan, my friends who are Red Sox fan, at least they tell me that all is forgiven for 86, and that we are allies in because going forward, we just want the Yankees to lose. So
no, the enemy of your enemy is my friend. Right?
Yes, and my time in Boston, going to Fenway, and I go back all the time. My daughter lives there. In addition to having a daughter who goes to Tufts, I have a daughter who lives there full time, makes her home there, and so I go up there all the time. I feel like Boston's my second home. So
That's awesome.
I'm a Red Sox guy. I just came back from Cape Cod.
Nice.
I saw the
You get flown to Martha's Vineyard or
I saw the plane go by, but no.
I saw the Mets play the Red Sox at Fenway, pre-pandemic, their last stop there for the interleague game, and it was I swear I've never seen the Mets fans had taken up a whole section. They clearly had planned this months in advance, and invariably we were yelling back and forth at each other till the Yankee Sox chants started. And then the whole place got together on that.
Right. There's
funny.
There's something nice about finding that common ground, but there's also something weird about the Yankees aren't even there and we're talking about them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the Yankees. Yeah.
That phrase, they live rent free in our heads. That's it's definitely because here in New York, Mets fans hate Yankees, but the Yankee fans don't hate the Mets. They don't care.
Yeah.
We're the little brother who's like always kicking the shin, and the big brother just doesn't notice.
Well, maybe this will be the year we see a Subway Series that the Mets come out on top. Who knows?
I would love it. Believe me, I think about that more than I should. I should be thinking about my comic. There's a lot of thoughts about a lot of brain space taken up by, who's going to play center field if Nimmo is injured. Yeah.
I was just at Citi Field for the first time actually over the summer. What a great field.
Great place.
Stadium.
Yeah. I think they did a great job, and it's one of the best of those new stadiums.
Yeah, I agree.
But Fenway is what it is. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean Fenway's uncomfortable, and would be really nice if they could rip out some of the seats and put in some actual seats, but fun with what that footprint they have is fantastic. I don't know if you've been there lately, but the people that run that place now, the way they put in they've expanded as much as possible with food courts and sight lines and the monster seats and everything.
Every year they find somewhere new to put seats.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it. That's what you think they've run out of space. They find some somewhere to stick a bunch in.
Yeah, no, it's a great place. I love going there, but yeah, it's not my home stadium, so I go there very infrequently. So if it's a little uncomfortable for a couple hours, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, Ruben Bolling, this was awesome. I can't believe it's already time to wrap up. But before we do, you have several recent new books out. So we want to tell people what those are, where to find them, and where to find your other work before we go.
Oh, great. I can tell you that my daughter who lives in Boston, the one I just mentioned who lives there full time, helped me with my, just revamped my page. So everything now can be found at tomthedancingbug.com, tomthedancingbug.com. And the publisher Clover Press approached me, and they just want to put everything that I've done in print. So we're doing a thing called the Complete Tom the Dancing Bug program, where we're doing multiple volumes. Each volume holds all the Tom the Dancing Bug comics for a given 4-year period. Some of them are 5 years. And so we now are going to have 4 volumes out as of October. A new one comes out, plus 2 other books, Super Fun Pet Comics and Tom the Dancing Bug Without the Bad Ones. So overall, 6 books will have been published in the last 2 years, and every 6 months, more and more. So you can see the books are over there. Those are the complete Tom the Dancing Bug books. So yeah, go to tomthedancingbug.com if you're interested in buying these books. It's been a joy to do, and to do the covers and to revisit the comics. And of course, there's my my Inner Hive, which is a subscription service where you can get the Tom the Dancing Bug comics a day before they're published anywhere. And that's also on tomthedancingbug.com. So that's very pluggy.
That's the plug away.
Yes.
We like to say.
I'm shilling away. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. This has been great. I'd encourage everybody to check out Tom the Dancing Bug and all related properties. We at our own website, petpeevescomic.com/podcast, we will have samples of Tom the Dancing Bug. I have links to these books and to your website for anybody who wants to find it there. And we will, in the meantime, be back in October, where we will be giving a preview of the Mass Independent Comics Expo, which is coming back after a COVID hiatus.
If only there was an acronym for that.
Yeah, maybe they could come up with something between now and October. MICE. I can't think of anything. So please tune in for that, and thank you for listening. As always, I'm Pete Chianca with Dave London. Thank you, Ruben Bolling.
Thank you, guys. It was great to meet you. It was really a good time.
Thank you so much.
This is
And
fantastic.
we'll see you all in October. Thanks, everybody.